Guys, another exciting fight week. And we're back with Fight Pass with Mitch, and we have UFC 279. I know everyone's been waiting for the return of Nate fucking Diaz, the Stockton killer. He's going against Dana White's pony boy, Khamzat Chimaev. This fight is going to be an absolute slugfest. They're giving him 5 rounds because obviously everybody knows it's almost impossible to finish Nate Diaz. So the odds makers went ballistic on this. They have Chimaev. I just got to let this out right away. He's at a minus 1050 favorite. And you got Nate Diaz at a plus 700 underdog, which is like, to explain it, it's like me coming out to fight Habib. It's like whack out odds. It's like it's almost they're sending Nate Diaz as a sacrificial lamb.
He's gonna eat the goat? Excellent.
What's the matter, kid? You never had lamb chops?
To be slaughtered in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. But let's go over it, why the odds maker came to that. Obviously, you know, Chimaev is a freaking monster. I keep talking about it. Beard, no mustache, you better know how to wrestle. Guys from Chechnya, 3-time Swedish world champion in wrestling. Guy can wrestle. I repeat, one of the most dominant wrestlers we have in the welterweight division. He is an absolute workhorse. Trains with guys like Darren Till, Ilar Latifi, Volkan Ozdemir. Dude is a monster. There is nobody. Alexander Gustafsson. Anyone who has felt the pads with this guy or has been on the mats will tell you he is the real deal. He has freakish strength. He's 5-0 in the UFC. He just went through an insane burner with Gilbert Burns when you really tested his toughness and his chin. He took big shots and he stood there. And a lot of people cannot take shots like that from Dorino. Dorino is a turtleback. He is a mutant ninja turtle. I repeat, Khamzat took bombs from Dorino and he stood there and he almost put him out himself. He's beat Burns, like I said. He's beat Li Jingliang. He KO'd GM3, and he had 2 other nice wins for his 5-0 UFC streak. Now the UFC is giving him Nate Diaz. In his career-wise, it doesn't exactly make sense to fight Nate. It doesn't actually prove his skill. This is a thing that the UFC does to really promote their ponies or their shining stars, however you want to call it. This is Dana's, one of his favorite guys on his roster in the division. He's exciting. People have a lot of questions about him. How good is he really? But at the same time, they want to continue to build that fan base. So when he does fight for the title, which I do believe in my heart, he will be fighting the title within the next few fights, he will gain enough momentum to sell a shitload of pay-per-views. Guys, at the end of the day, remember, it's not what you want, it's what pays the bills. And Uncle Dana doesn't make mistakes. The matchmakers set these things up strategically. Nate Diaz is Google, Microsoft. He's a tremendous name. He has a tremendous following. It doesn't matter win or lose, he sells out. People pay to watch Nate Diaz. He's a legend. He has his own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school in Stockton. His brother's the legend, Nick Diaz. I can go on and on. He's a Renzo Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt. You obviously know his last fight, Nate Diaz lost to Leon Rocky Edwards, who is now the champ. And he actually hurt Edwards. Versus Usman, I didn't even think put that type of damage on Edwards the way Nate Diaz did to Rocky. He obviously lost the fight before to Masvidal in MSG. And they fought for the BMF belt, and it gave Masvidal insane stardom. Like I said, anyone who gets on a fight card with Nate Diaz, it's huge. This guy is a big stock for the UFC. So if this is Nate Diaz's last fight, this is a fantastic fight to set up. He fights only gangsters, only killers. And like Khamzat said, he's waiting for Nate Diaz at the airport. He eats gangsters for breakfast. So this is a fantastic, I repeat, main event happening September 10th at the T-Mobile Arena. Let's go down to our co-main event. We have our legend, Tony El Cucuy Ferguson, coming back to the welterweight division. And I believe he's given himself a retirement fight because the guy he's going against is Li Jingliang, and this dude can bang. Notorious Radio was just at Belmont, and he took out a guy that I thought might have been too much for him, a guy in Muslim Salikov, the Kung Fu dude. He's a beast also. Very good welterweight. And he put him out. His last loss prior to that was to Chimaev. So you have to understand, when Chimaev beat him and took him out in the first round, just to show how good Chimaev is. And the fight prior, he beat Santiago Ponzibio, and then the fight prior, he lost to Magny. So he is actually coming up on his 17th UFC fight. He is a huge veteran. He fights anyone and everyone. He hides from no one. Li Jingliang is going to put the lights out on El Cucuy. I love Tony. He's unfortunately on a 4-fight losing streak. Obviously, I remember the glory days when he was the UFC hitman and he was on a 12-fight UFC streak. And we were dying to watch that fight versus him and Khabib. And that, unfortunately, never came to life. Gaethje stopped it. Then he lost to Oliveira. Then he lost to Dariush. And then his last fight, he had a front kick knockout by Michael Chandler, which was a really devastating KO. Now he's coming back out of the lightweight division into the welterweight versus a top 15 opponent who has fought much bigger and stronger guys than Tony. I do believe this will be too much for Tony. And at minus 295, I am rocking with Li Jingliang. I have no choice. This Asian guy has way too much power. He is violent. He finishes people. He leaves nothing on the table when he enters that ring. It's either you're going to take him out or he's going to take you out. I do believe Tony maybe it'll be a little bit easier on his body. He won't have to cut the weight to 155 and he could focus more on his strength and conditioning. But I do believe he will not carry enough power with him to really hurt a guy like Li Jingliang. So at Tony, as the underdog at plus 235, I'm going to have to stay away from that and take Li Jingliang. My man is putting Tony out. Tony, I love you, but this is going to be a 5-fight losing streak for you. And I think this is your end with the UFC. I think you have taken more than you can chew. Always champ shit, like you said. CSO, champ shit only. But I respect you for taking this fight. But I do think this is way too much. This is a huge step up to come into the welterweight division to fight someone like this. So good luck. We'll be watching. We're not putting our money on you. Don't feel like it's safe. We're not trying to burn money. The next fight is honestly one of the most key matchups. And I think this is when my guy is really going to show out. So we have Big Mouth, Kevin Holland. This is going to be his 3rd fight at welterweight. And finally, I think the matchmakers put him against a very, very good opponent, as in Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez in the welterweight division is a monster. He is tremendous. He's a former pro boxer, had a short stint. He is like this LA gangsta, tatted up, pot smoking gangbanger. He is tough. I believe one of his breakout fights, what really had me noticing him, is when he really hurt Mike Perry and he put the beats on him. Mike Perry, as you can see right now, is a vicious bare-knuckle boxer. So this is just to show you that Mike Perry cannot throw the hands with Daniel Rodriguez in the octagon, that it was too much. He has a wicked leg kick, and I believe Kevin Holland is going to try to get in his head, talk to him, try to throw bullshit on his name, but I do believe he's going to upset Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland had 2 fights in the welterweight so far. He versed Alex Oliveira and Tim Means. These are veteran fighters in the welterweight division. And since he was coming from the middleweight, I felt that he had to win those fights because of the competition he was facing in the middleweight division. It was much more steeper than how he entered the welterweight. This is a fantastic third fight for him. Daniel Rodriguez is at a plus 165, and we're going to take Daniel Rodriguez that night. We're going to leave Big Mouth alone. I think he's going to fall up short. I think he's going to possibly underestimate Rodriguez. It's a catchweight fight. They're doing it at 180. They're meeting somewhere in the middle. And it's interesting. I don't really care about the weight. Rodriguez is a massive welterweight. He is huge. If he later on decided to fight at middleweight, I would not be surprised. The dude is gigantic. I don't understand how he even makes weight, but he does. He never misses. Series professional. Fights out of Syndicate MMA in Vegas. And guys, this is the third fight of the night, and this one you cannot miss. This is fucking awesome. Please, Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez, really, really keep your eyes open. That's going to be fireworks. Notorious Radio is taking D-Rod that night at a plus 165. He is our lock. I really like him. I really want to stand behind him, and I think he's going for gold that night. Our next fight is a really exciting fight in the women's bantamweight division. You have Irene Aldana at 13-6 versus Macy Chiasson, the number 10 versus the number 4 in the bantamweight division. And Irene Aldana's 13-6 versus Macy Chiasson. She's 8-2. And Aldana is a really crisp boxer from Mexico. I love her hands. I love her grit. She's always looking for the finish. Her last win was a TKO against Yana Kuznitskaya. She lost the fight prior to Holly Holm, and then she had a violent knockout versus Caitlin Vieira, which I absolutely loved. We're going to definitely throw a clip of that. That was fucking sick. First, you have Macy Chiasson, who's been solid. She had a win versus Demond. Both of these fighters lost to Raquel Pennington, but Macy lost to Pennington via submission. And she had 2 other wins. I don't believe that Macy has enough experience or strength to go against Aldana. I think this is a great fight for Aldana to build momentum, to possibly line herself up for closer to a title fight. I think she's really talented. She's a great vet, and this is a great fight for her, and we're going to rock with her at minus 170. She's our pick for the night. Guys, out of the girls, we're taking Irene Aldana from Mexico over Macy Chiasson. And the opening fight, which is really, really exciting. And you're going to be surprised who we're taking. But we got Johnny Walker, the number 13th light heavyweight, versus Ian Hulk Kudalaba. Both of these dudes, very flashy, very interesting at the scales. Always, they play a lot of mental games with their opponents. But I do believe that their little mental games have caught up to both of them. So let's start with Johnny Walker. He got obliterated by my favorite light heavyweight, and that's Jamal Hill. He took him out last fight, KO, just knocked him out standing. Then he lost to Thiago Santos. He had a win over Ryan Spann, and then he had a loss to Krylov, and that fight, obviously you remember, he lost to Corey Anderson, and that was an MSG, and that was huge. This was Dana White's, kind of like Chimaev. He really had a lot of hopes for Johnny Walker in the light heavyweight division, but unfortunately, as the talent increased, he could not step up to the plate, and he was getting finished and destroyed, fight after fight. His cardio was not holding up, and some of the things that gave him success was his clinch, his Muay Thai, and his strength. In a sense, his number got picked, and they started to figure him out, and they started putting him away. And then you have Ian Kudalaba, 16-7. He lost his last fight to Ryan Spann. He had a win over Devin Clark. He had a draw with Dustin Jacoby, who's really been also scrappy dude, been doing very well. And then he lost 2 times to Magomedov Ankalaev, which I think was the fact that they ran it twice. Really, Ankalaev put the beats on this guy. But regardless of the case, we got to pick somebody for Notorious. So Johnny Walker versus Ian, opening fight on September 10th. we're going to go with the underdog. We're going with Ian Cutelaba. I know a lot of people want to ride with Johnny. He's a little flashy, he's a little funny, he's a good dancer. But we're going to rock with the Moldovan. I think he's shown enough. I think he's humbled his role. And I think he's going to do a big upset against Johnny Walker. And that's going to be our pick. We're taking Ian Cutelaba. He's at a minus 200. And we're going to rock with our guy that night. And I still want to recap Saturday's event at France. That was absolutely fucking fantastic. Gain versus Bam Bam was absolutely incredible. Those guys gave us a world-class performance of toughness, skill, and grit and determination. It was absolutely incredible. Game, like I said, when I meant technical, you saw the front kicks that he was throwing. It was almost like an all-you-can-eat buffet for him of body shots. It was absolutely wicked. For Tai Tuivasa to sit there and take that much punishment just shows his toughness, his grit, his determination. He is nowhere near done. This is a small bump in the road. I think Bam Bam is only getting better, and we will see a lot more of Tai Tuivasa in the future. He still carries massive bombs in his hands, and he had Gain really hurt. And just to show you, if Gain's conditioning and training was not at 100%, he would have not recovered that fast, and most likely he would have gotten finished. But he's been in tough situations. He's probably been in a very brutal training camp, and all that hard work paid off in the gym, and it showed on Saturday night in France, in his hometown. He came with a massive finish, super technical, and put on a world-class performance. Another thing I want to mention, all the French fighters, they went 4 for 4 that night. Him, Magomedov, Gomes, and the other guy in the prelims, they all cleaned up house. Unfortunately, one of the Canadian Frenchmen, Charles Jourdain, fell up short. But otherwise, they had a phenomenal night in Paris. It was great, and I was so happy that the UFC did another international event. I think it was great, and I kind of enjoyed that the fight card was at 3 o'clock. So I got to still enjoy Saturday night, but still got to watch UFC. Another thing that was just announced, we have Jake Paul going against Anderson Silva October 29th. And I gotta say, Jake Paul is grinding. He got a Hall of Famer, Anderson Silva, this is a great payday for our boy. Anderson is gonna get paid for this. But at the same time, a lot of people keep shitting on Jake Paul, and I want to actually commend him. He's making good fights. He's making a lot of money. He's promoting. He's fighting. He's bringing up his brand tremendously. And anyone who's hating on that knows nothing about business. Jake Paul is a stud. I love that he's fighting Anderson Silva. They already signed that contract. That's happened October 29th. And listen, talk all you want. This YouTuber is becoming like the Don King of boxing. Doing his own events, making his own fights, promoting his own shit. He's on his network with all his guys. It's put his brother on. It's absolutely incredible. And this one is going to be a little treat. I'm definitely going to watch this one because obviously I'm a huge Anderson Silva fan. And I'm understanding Jake Paul's flow on how he does things and how he books his fights and how he chooses his opponents. And I kind of like that he's fighting these like retired UFC guys. He had Tyron Woodley. He had Ben Askren. It's like, I like it. I like what he's doing. He's bringing in these MMA guys, putting them in boxing gloves, and he's fighting them. But listen, at the end of the day, these MMA guys train boxing. He was a phenomenal athlete, but listen, he has the money and resources to give him the best training. And he obviously is a hard puncher. As you can see, knocking out a guy like Tyron Woodley is not easy. Knocking out a guy like Ben Askren with your hands is not going to be easy. So Anderson Silva is going to be a phenomenal test for him because Anderson Silva had a phenomenal boxing against Julio Chavez Jr. And he took that W. And he looked fucking fantastic in the boxing ring. So I cannot wait for these two guys to scrap on October 29th. Guys, remember, this is your host, Mitchell, from Notorious Radio 718. And we're going to be back for more and more with a lot of great content. But remember to always like, follow, subscribe us on all platforms. And if it ain't Notorious, I don't want it. See you soon. Love you.